If I had to start my kitchen over from scratch, there are a few tools that I would definitely buy again, and I want to share them with you today. In fact, they're all right here. But the reason why I think these tools are invaluable in a kitchen is because they make getting scratch-made food on the table easier. Now, one of my favorite kitchen tools right now that's brand new to me is the Super Cube sets. So Super Cubes are silicone trays that you use for making freezer meals. So these come in a variety of sizes. My favorite sizes are the 1 cup and the 2 cup. But this is the 2 cup Super Cube. So of course this holds 2 cups of food. But what I like about this is that two 2-cup squares side by side fits perfectly into a gallon freezer bag. So you can fit 4 of these in a freezer bag. So that means instead of having to freeze everything in freezer bags and then thaw the entire freezer bag, what you can do is you first pre-freeze everything in these cubes, repackage them into a freezer bag 24 or 48 hours later. Then as needed, you just pull out 1 cube at a time to thaw and reheat. So that makes it a lot easier if you just want to reheat enough for 1 meal or 1 portion, or if you want to pull a little cube out to take for lunch for work that you can microwave at work. It makes it really easy to make freezer meals without having to make and thaw huge batches of food. Because these are silicone and flexible, that means that once it's frozen, it's really easy to pop the food out of the tray. You just press it underneath and voila, I have a cup of apple butter. Super Cubes has a few other items that I really like, and one of them is this 2-cup ceramic dish with a lid. What I like about this is you could take one of those 2-cup pre-frozen cubes and just throw them right in here, and then you have a lunch ready to go. But what I do is I just take that food that I'm making and freezing, and I freeze it right in this, and then my husband can take this to work. By the time it's lunchtime or whenever he's hungry, it's thaw or mostly thaw, and then he can microwave this entire dish in the office and have something to eat while he's at work. But also because this is ceramic, once it's thawed, you can just pop this right in the oven if that works for you too. The other thing that Super Cubes makes that I am obsessed with are these no mess spoons and utensils. So if you can see here, let me get you a better shot. This has a little like crook right here. And what this is for is it rests on the edge of the pot. So that way you can stir or ladle your food out. And then when you want to set it aside, you just rest this on the pot and it stays there. And because it has this silicone handle, it doesn't get hot. So you can just hold it and stir and use it without ever taking the spoon out of your pot. These are genius. I love these things. The Instant Pot has been my rediscovered go-to this year. So this is an old model Instant Pot. I will leave links for the latest models. I don't even think they sell this one anymore, but I guess that's a testament to how long it lasts because I've had this thing forever. But for a long time, I used my Instant Pot and then I put it away for a long time. But over the last 6 months or so, I have been relying so heavily on the Instant Pot that it is the workhorse of our kitchen right now. Specifically, I recommend and use the 8-quart Instant Pot. So you can see it's just a little bit larger than the regular 6-quart Instant Pot. Of course, the 6-quart Instant Pot will do the job, but what I like about the 8-quart is you can make bigger batches of food, but it also has a slightly stronger heating element, which means you can cook things from frozen faster and more effectively. So over on my blog at moonandmagnolia.com, for example, I have a recipe for how to cook a whole frozen chicken in the Instant Pot. It will work in this 6-quart Instant Pot, but it actually cooks faster and a little bit better in the 8-quart. So it's just a little more efficient in terms of how well it can cook because of that stronger heating element. But because it has that larger pot, it also means you can just make bigger batches of food, making meal prep day a lot easier. So you could double or triple up your recipes and have a lot of extras to freeze for later on. The other thing that I really like about the Instant Pot is that it doubles as a slow cooker. And I have another slow cooker that I'm going to show you here in a few minutes. But what I like about the Instant Pot and that it doubles as a slow cooker is that I don't have to keep an extra appliance on hand. These appliances take up a lot of space. And so if you have an Instant Pot and a slow cooker and whatever other appliances you have, you really have to find space to store all of that because you probably don't want it on your counter all the time. So I really like that I get the slow cooker function and the pressure cooking function from just one appliance. Since I mentioned that the Instant Pot can double as a slow cooker, that's a good segue into one of my other all-time favorite kitchen appliances, which is the Bruden-Taylor Proofing Box and Slow Cooker. So this is a collapsible box that you can use not only to proof your dough to create a warmer environment for your dough, but also as a slow cooker. And what I like about this is it is a slow cooker, but it folds up like this. So I just store this right in my pantry. Now, unlike a traditional slow cooker, it doesn't have a slow cooker insert, which is actually what I like about it. What you use instead is a regular old pot, stock pot, Dutch oven, whatever it is you have that will fit in there. And then you put that pot's lid on, and then you use the actual slow cooker lid on top of that. And then you set it to 195, which is about average for slow cooking on low. So if you like to use your slow cooker on high all the time, that wouldn't be an option with this because it only goes to 195 degrees Fahrenheit. However, if you are fine with cooking on low with your slow cooker, this is a great option. But I actually really like that it doesn't have a separate insert for the slow cooker because those things are huge and they're hard to fit in the dishwasher. They're kind of a pain to put in the sink when you're collecting dirty dishes throughout the day. I really like that I can just use my regular old pots that fit perfectly in my dishwasher and that aren't really hard to handle and don't have to be replaced if they break. So with a traditional slow cooker, if that ceramic crock or insert breaks, you either need to buy an entire new slow cooker or find a replacement crock. But with this, you're just using your regular old pots and pans, so it's really nice that you don't have to worry about that at all. Primarily, this is marketed as a bread proofer. I use it more for a slow cooker these days, but you can, of course, use it to proof your bread dough. So if you're a sourdough person, for example, you would just set this to say 75 degrees, put your dough in there, and that creates a warmer environment for your dough to ferment. You can also use it for making yogurt and other fermented foods. In fact, I've used this for making yogurt before and it worked like a charm. I've tried other yogurt makers and it didn't really work well, but this worked great. And that's because you can set the temperature really low on this. You can set it all the way down to 70 degrees. So if you're making fermented foods, whether it's yogurt or kefir or even sauerkraut, for example, that you want to control the temperature a little bit, this is great for that because you can set the temperature really low and control that environment. Over the years, I have shown a lot of my different Dutch ovens and my cast iron skillet. I love my stove Dutch oven. I use my Lodge dual cooker Dutch oven all the time for baking bread, but my Cuisinart Dutch oven that I shared a lot over the years on YouTube cracked, which is my fault. I'm heavy-handed and I break things a lot. But with that said, I did get a new Dutch oven that I love. So this is, I think it's called Emile. It's French. I'm sorry, I don't speak French. I do eat French food, but that's about it. But so this Dutch oven, it's actually ceramic, not cast iron, which means it is way lighter and easier to use. Now, of course, I love my cast iron Dutch ovens, and I'll probably always use one at least for baking sourdough bread because they're really great for that. But in terms of actual cooking, I'm now starting to lean toward this light ceramic because it's just so much easier to deal with. Even though it seems light and fragile, that ceramic is actually really resilient. So you can sear with it, you can put it on a grill. It has no high heat limitations, and it's highly resistant to thermal shock or cracking. And it says on their website that it's 50% lighter than other cookware, and it is really light. In fact, when I first got this, I kept like pushing the pot across the stove because I'm so used to my heavy cast iron, and I would try to scrape up some bits of brown flavor on the bottom of the pan or something like that. And I was like moving the whole pot. So it is a little bit of an adjustment if you're used to really heavy cast iron, but that lightness is actually what I really like about it. Like the stove Dutch oven, it has a dimpled lid, which makes it a self-basting lid. So as you're cooking, all that steam collects on the lid and then drips off of these little dimples, creating that self-basting environment. So not only is it lighter than cast iron, but it also has some of the same high quality features that something like a stove has too. And one of the other things I like about it in comparison to a stove is that it has a light interior. Stove often talks about that dark interior as one of its hallmark traits, but it makes it really hard to see what's going on when you're cooking. So this light interior just makes it easier to see if things are burning, if things are browning okay, and what's going on. So in a lot of ways, I actually prefer this Emile Dutch oven versus my stove Dutch oven because it's way lighter. It has that self-basting lid, but it also has this light colored interior, which makes it easier to cook. With that said though, it does a lot of things, making it a really high quality item, which means it comes at a high price. I got super lucky with mine. I found this one at Home Goods. It has the tiniest little chip in it, and I got it for $60, which blows my mind. But if you were to get them full price, the 7.5 quart is closer to about $400. So if that's not in your price range or not in the budget right now, I would look around at places like Home Goods or TJ Maxx. I have been looking diligently since to see if I can find any more, and I have not seen one in Home Goods since. I guess I just got really lucky. But if you are looking to invest in a piece of cookware that can last you a lifetime and that is within your budget right now, I definitely recommend the Emile Dutch oven. One of the most inexpensive kitchen items that I have that I use more than maybe anything else is my waterproof digital kitchen scale. And a lot of you over the years have asked me specifically what this kitchen scale is, and it is the MegaWise waterproof digital kitchen scale, and I will link that below in the description box. But what I really like about this kitchen scale is it's super cheap. So this is usually around $20 on Amazon, but sometimes you can get it on sale for under $10. So you can get a pretty good deal on this. And I've had this kitchen scale for years now. So it will definitely be a pretty big bang for your buck because it's cheap and lasts forever. I like that it looks nice in the kitchen, that I can leave it out. I usually keep it in my stand mixer bowl and it isn't really an eyesore. But I also like that the weight is off to the side. I have had kitchen scales before where it shows you the weight in the front of the scale. And even though they work just fine, I always found it a little bit harder to see. So I prefer this version. The other thing I like about it though is you can power it either with 2 AAA batteries or you can recharge it with the USB-C. So if you don't want to worry about replacing the batteries all the time, that's not a problem. If you can remember to charge it, I never remember to charge it, but I'm sure you can. If you can remember to recharge it, then you don't have to worry about the batteries at all. So it's really nice that there's 2 ways to power it. But I use this for all sorts of things in my kitchen. Of course, for baking, because when you weigh your baking ingredients in grams, it's more precise and repeatable. But also I buy a lot of my food in bulk. So for example, I get these big bulk bags of spaghetti noodles from Azure Standard, but my recipes call for only 1 pound of spaghetti noodles. So that way I can just measure out 1 pound of noodles. My husband also uses it to weigh out his meals, so that way he can easily put it into his fitness tracker. So there's a lot of uses for a kitchen scale outside of baking. And I found over the years that having a digital kitchen scale like this is invaluable. But the one other thing I really like about this is that it's waterproof. My last kitchen scale was actually not waterproof. And of course, what happened? I spilled water on it and it broke. So this one is completely waterproof. So if you spill something on it, it's not a big deal at all. And it has this hard cover on it, so it's really easy to clean and wipe up too. This one's for the sourdough folks out there. So I know when you make sourdough, you do not have to have Banneton baskets. You can always take a towel in a bowl and flour it and use that for your shaped dough. But I really have found that I prefer using Banneton baskets because for a few reasons. One, they come with these liners that you can flour just like you would a towel that prevents your dough from sticking, but these little liners over time become nonstick and you use less and less flour over time, so you don't have to worry about that as much. It might be a little hard to see on camera, but you can see here how this is sort of developed almost like a crust on it. It sounds kind of gross, but really all that is a buildup of flour that's like a seasoning on a skillet or something, for example, that helps prevent the dough from sticking. So whereas you'd probably throw all of your towels in the washing machine after you've made bread and then you'd have to reflour it again, this eventually becomes more of the non-stick surface for your dough. In some of my old YouTube videos, I have this like flat sourdough bread, and it's because I didn't have a bowl with high enough sides to support the dough as it was cold proofing. These Banneton baskets have tall sides, like this 7-inch Banneton basket, so that way as the dough proofs or rises, however you're using it, it supports it and it doesn't spread out and collapse. I keep a couple different sizes on hand. This is a 9-inch Banneton basket for a pretty traditional bowl of sourdough bread. This is a 7-inch Banneton basket that I specifically use for einkorn sourdough. I have a recipe for that and a tutorial for how to make that on my blog and on YouTube. I'll link those below. My personal favorite is actually the Batard basket. Let me see if I can get you a better view here. So a Batard, which is a terrible name, but it is an oval shape, whereas a Banneton is a round shape. The reason why I like this one a little bit better is because it does have taller sides. And for whatever reason, I just seem to get better results from this. So I use this one most of the time, but I do use my regular old Banneton basket sometimes too. It's really just a matter of preference. The Kumio ice cream maker is not necessarily what I would consider a kitchen essential, but ever since having this ice cream maker, I've decided I just can't go without a compressor ice cream maker. So a lot of traditional ice cream makers, you have to do a lot of pre-freezing, you need to use salt. There's all these like pre-steps that you have to do before you can make your ice cream. With a compressor ice cream maker like this one, you just mix the ice cream ingredients together and put it right into the little container. In this case, it looks like this. Then you simply just put it back into the machine and hit go. As it churns, it freezes the ingredients. So once you get the ice cream mixture in there, it's only about 45 minutes from having a liquid ice cream mixture to a frozen ice cream that you can consume. Now, once it comes out of the ice cream maker, it is a little bit more like soft serve. So usually what I do is I transfer it into a dish and stick it in the freezer for a few hours just to make it more scoopable. But it's definitely a much faster way to make ice cream than some of the regular ice cream makers that you might be more familiar with. Now, this is the Kumio ice cream maker. I do have a video that compares this to the Ninja Creamy. I'll link that in the description box below. I wasn't a fan of the Creamy. That kind of upset the internet. I'm sorry, but I just like this better. Now, with that said, the Kumio specifically is no longer available. However, there are a lot of other ice cream makers that are comparable. Probably the most popular compressor ice cream machine like this would be the Breville. Once this one kicks the bucket, I will definitely replace it with the Breville. It is a little bit more of an investment, but I've definitely found that I use our ice cream maker enough to justify that investment. But there are also some off-market ones that I will link in the description box that you can check out. But there's nothing more delicious than homemade ice cream. And one of the things I really like about it is because it works so quickly, if I just want ice cream on a whim, as long as I have some simple ingredients, I can have that ice cream ready to go in 45 minutes, homemade from scratch. But also because I'm making it from scratch, I can control the ingredients that go in it. So sometimes I use heavy cream, sometimes I use half and half, sometimes we use more sugar, sometimes we use less. So you can really start dialing in the ice cream that you want to consume. Okay, maybe getting back to something a little more practical, aluminum pans. Not super exciting, but these disposable aluminum pans are really helpful for making freezer meals. So what I like to do is assemble freezer meals in these pans, stick them in my freezer, and then when we're ready to eat them, I just take the entire pan and put it right in the oven and we have dinner ready to go. In full disclosure, I don't always love cooking in aluminum, but I am always trying to balance the realities of my life and also the need and desire to have homemade food on the table. And right now, just given the season of my life, it's really helpful to have a pretty big stack of these on hand for freezer pasta bakes and other freezer meals that we can just put right into the oven. You can get these on Amazon. I found these actually at Sam's Club for a pretty good price. What I like about these is they have these aluminum lids. So that way you can write on the lid and then you can put it with that lid right into the oven. So you don't have to worry about recovering it with foil or anything like that. Now, maybe down the road, what I might do is start swapping this out with, say, Pyrex dishes. I just don't want to buy those Pyrex dishes at the moment. But maybe if I start finding them at thrift shops or something like that, that might be a better option. But for right now, given the season and the realities of my life, these have really been invaluable for us. Over here in the corner, I have two appliances that I really cannot live without: my Mockmill grain mill and also my KitchenAid stand mixer. So I've talked a lot about both of these appliances on a lot of videos on YouTube, but I do want to share them because I really do use these all the time. So the Mockmill grain mill is for milling flour. If you've been watching my YouTube videos for a while, you've heard a lot about grain milling, but I particularly like this grain mill because, sorry I'm vain, but it looks really pretty. It's a big appliance that I'm not going to store and take out every single time I use it. So I wanted to make sure that it looks nice in my kitchen. So first and foremost, I picked it for the aesthetic, but also this is the professional quality. So it's just a really heavy duty machine that can handle a lot of work. Now, if you're not familiar with grain milling, all a grain mill is it is an electronic machine that you take whole wheat berries, and a wheat berry is the technical term for a seed of wheat. So you take the wheat berries, put it in the hopper, and it grinds it into flour, giving you 100% whole grain flour. Flour that you buy from the store is sifted and it has the bran and the germ removed, which are the most nutritious parts of the flour. So this ensures you're getting the most nutritional bang for your buck out of any flour. So I use this for milling flour for sourdough bread, sandwich breads, pastries, cookies, you name it. But I do really love my Mockmill. It's the only grain mill I've used, so I can't compare it to other types of grain mills. But in my experience, this one has been great. Also, next to my grain mill, I have my KitchenAid stand mixer. And specifically, this is the 7-quart bowl lift stand mixer. And what I really like about that is that it's 7 quarts, meaning it's a bigger bowl, and it is the lift type rather than the tilt. So some stand mixers have a head that tilts up and down. Other stand mixers lift the bowl up and down. I have had the type of stand mixer where the head tilts. it did not last. It was not really able to withstand kneading dough like I want it to. But with the bowl lift stand mixer, it's been totally fine. I've had this for years now. I've been kneading dough on medium speed with the dough hook, sometimes double or even triple batches of dough, and I haven't had a single problem. The other thing, because it is a little bit of a bigger machine, it's heavier and it doesn't walk. Sometimes a stand mixer, when it's working, it can start to weeble wobble. And I've seen terrible pictures online of stand mixers that have walked themselves right off the counter and have broken. This thing doesn't move at all. So I really like this particular version of the KitchenAid stand mixer. This is my third KitchenAid stand mixer, and I regret the first two because they were budget friendly. I understand that sometimes you just have X amount of money that you can work with, but I think in hindsight, it would have been a better option to just save up my money and get the better version, because the first two just didn't last and didn't meet my needs. So I ended up spending more money than I really needed to. Had I just gotten this one off the bat, I would have saved a lot of money. Okay, over here is my Breville Barista Pro coffee maker, which might actually be the most used item in my kitchen, because I usually drink 2 or 3 cups of coffee a day. My husband usually drinks 2 or 3 cups of coffee a day. So that means we're using this somewhere between like 4 and 6 times a day. Now, I have gotten a lot of criticism on YouTube about this coffee maker and how much it costs. And I will say, if you buy it full price, it can be expensive, but there are always ways to get things a little bit cheaper. So this one we actually only had to pay $100 for, because my husband was able to use some reward points through his job to get this. So we only paid $100 for this. I have seen it on sale for under $500. I have seen them used on Marketplace. Right now, though, on Amazon, they are closer to like $900. So it's definitely an investment if you get it full price. But remember, there are always ways to get nice things at a better price. If I recall correctly, I'm pretty sure during Amazon Prime Day, this was on a pretty good sale too. So if it's out of your budget right now, or if you just don't like to pay full price for things, just keep an eye on this online, because when they go on sale, they're usually pretty steeply discounted. If you are the type of person who makes one big pot of coffee and drinks from that all day, or your family drinks from that all day, this wouldn't be a good option for you, because you can only make 1 cup at a time here. So what I make every morning is a double shot of espresso, and then I fill it with water like an Americano and have that. My husband usually makes a cappuccino, but you can only make 1 at a time. But if you do enjoy espresso, cappuccinos, lattes, this is a really great option. One of the reasons why we landed on the Breville Barista Pro is because it has this built-in hopper and grinder. So we actually were thinking about getting a cheaper espresso machine, but it didn't have a grinder. And once we were looking at grinders, we found that that was a whole other expense. You can go down a really deep rabbit hole about espresso machines and coffee grinders, by the way. But this had both parts. So it has obviously the coffee maker and the grinder. So that was one of the main reasons why we chose this one. And with that said, it has a conical burr grinder with 30 grind settings. So you can really dial in the grind, which is pretty important when you're making espresso-based drinks. It has a frother on the side, and then you have the single and double shot options. And I don't know if I've ever used the single shot option, to be honest with you. There are a couple accessories that are really helpful if you have an espresso machine, whether it's this one or a different one. And one is a dosing cup. So that way you don't have to grind the coffee right into the portafilter, which can be pretty messy and kind of a pain. It goes into this cup instead. Then you simply just put the portafilter on, flip it over, and then you pour in the coffee that way. It's way easier and less messy. The other thing that we use all the time with our coffee maker is the crema tamper. So this is dual-sided. So one side has these grooves on it, which help you just level out the coffee once you get it in the portafilter. And then the other side is what you use to pack the coffee into the portafilter. So this has been a really helpful accessory that we've had. I think we actually got this for Christmas a couple years ago, and we love it. If you want to learn more about the items I showed you in my kitchen today, head to the description box and you'll see a little section that says product links. You can click those links and get all the specs for all of these items, but also because most of them are on Amazon, you can also really easily see related items and similar items. So that way you can check out the ones that might fit your budget or needs better. Thanks so much for stopping by today, and I'll see you again next time.